What up, what up, what up? What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is me, Molly Ruland. Hey, I am live from my living room. What's up, couches? How y'all doing today? I don't know if you guys know this, but Forbes just rated my living room the hottest new place to record live stream. So shout out to me and Forbes. Thank you for that. I appreciate you guys tuning in every day at 2 o'clock. I just wanted to remind you that it's Thursday. I know things are getting a little confusing, and we gonna make it, y'all. We are going to make it. It is almost the end of the week. You got through another weekend or week of this madness, and then now you can kind of figure out what you're going to do for the rest of the weekend. So I'm excited that you guys are tuning in. I'm excited to announce today's guest. I love how people are pairing themselves unintentionally. It's a beautiful thing. So without further ado, thank you again for tuning in. Thanks, Chuck Levins and Podcast Outfitters for all the technical support. And let's go ahead and bring in my first guest. And I'm just going to put myself all the way out there because I don't know 100% how to say your last name, Mana. So I'm going to try because that's what we should do as good allies. Mana Mostatabi? Mostatabi. Is that right?
It's right.
Oh,
It's phonetic. No, that's
oh,
great. Fabulous.
okay. All
I
right.
feel
Know.
seen.
Well, a lot of times we're just too insecure to try because as white people we're fragile, you know what I'm saying? And we don't want to put ourselves out there, but that's just rude, right? So I'm gonna try. We have to try. And it wasn't
Fabulous.
that hard. Yeah.
No,
I
you
mean,
got it.
so tell everybody who you are, Mana.
So, Molly, thanks for having me. I am Mana Mostatabi, as Molly correctly said. I'm the, day job. I'm the communications director at a nonprofit based in DC. We are called the National Iranian American Council, and we work on a variety of issues, but we basically champion the priorities of the Iranian American community, which has historically been pretty politically disengaged. And so we work on everything from securing equitable immigration to advancing peace and diplomacy. And as I'm sure you're all aware, we've had our hands full. This year's been a little crazy. So I'm quite excited to actually maybe take a step back and maybe process some happy things with you guys. So yeah, that's kind of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you've been, doing a lot of hard work this year and really putting yourself out there and representing for your community. And I really respect that about you. I know it's been a difficult time, and I am admittedly like head down in podcasting and, video and audio and all that stuff. And I rarely get any real news except for like producing the podcast that I do. And so it's really cool to be a fly on the wall and to like tune in and hear the real conversations and see the people on the front lines. And so nothing but absolute respect for you and the work that you're doing. And I'm glad that you're able to take a few minutes to hang out with us today. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. And so my next guest is Miss Keila Hill-Trawick. I almost messed that up too. That was not hard at all. Good Lord. How are you doing today?
I am good. I'm excited to be here too. It's nice to have a bit of a respite from day-to-day everything, but also I'm an accountant, so even though tax returns got delayed, tax season didn't. And so having a little bit of a break to say, oh, okay, we're not gonna deal with that for an hour or so is a nice break.
That's right. I mean, I used to often joke and say, ain't nobody dying, right? Because like I am not an open heart surgeon.
Right.
So like no one's going to lose their life if I'm not available for a little while. And I think now more than ever, right? Because there are people who are risking their lives and they're on the front line. And then the rest of us are kind of behind the scenes and we have to keep this thing boosted up. And that means taking breaks and not like, you can't work all the time, even if this current environment would allow you that opportunity. It's just not what's up, right?
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. And even like for my team, having to remind them like, hey, log off. It's fine. We'll be here tomorrow. To your point, we're not open heart surgeons. And I've had to remind myself, even with emails, like, y'all can wait. I'm doing the best that I can, but I cannot. I read something yesterday that said just because I have the time doesn't mean I have the capacity. And so this
Oh, I
idea
like that.
that, oh, sure, I could answer emails 24 hours because I'm not doing anything else, but it makes me crazy and it is not helpful. So actually,
Yeah.
instead, everybody can just wait until I'm back in a mind space where I can take care of
For sure. And I mean, even speaking as one of your clients, like I can co-sign that, you know what I mean?
it.
Like I had to shout out DCRA, earlier this week, which, for people that know me know that's just crazy because I am a fierce critic of DCRA. But those ladies just like really helped me this week because of course, like my like my license wasn't up to date. Like just me not being on top of my shit, you know what I mean, really came back to bite me when I'm trying to apply for these grants. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit. And just because I need to jump doesn't mean that like you're required to jump or they're required to jump. It was my own damn fault. I should have been on top of this sooner. But I'm, grateful to say that like you and Kedron and then like the women at DCRA, like we're working all weekend long. I was getting emails from women at DCRA like Sunday at 9:00 at night, like Saturday morning, Saturday night. Like I just can't express like how grateful I am for everybody that is choosing to work outside of their normal scope, because I'm sure I'm not the only jackass who like waited to get my life together until the world fell apart. And then I really needed, like, I'm not even going to talk about my taxes right now. We're just going to like table that over here until a later date,
It's also made me think about just the human component of all of this. Like, I think, whether you're going to work or you started your own business, we all think about like the task based parts of it.
Right.
And there are parts of me that are like, yeah, all of y'all want to apply for these grants today. I cannot finish everyone's financials on Thursday.
It's just not possible.
No, but there's another part of me that's like, yo, I know that you're trying to get money as soon as you can. And so, no, I can't do it all today, but we'll at least try to get it to you in the next couple of days because we know that you need it.
Right.
And that's been it hasn't been an odd shift, but it has been a different shift of, Little Fish was always built to support small businesses, but now it's a different way of like, hey, I know you need this. I will do it Saturday morning. Whereas, earlier this year, I might have been like, we don't work on the weekend. So you can get this email on Monday.
Sorry about your luck, Chuck. Yeah. Well, a lot of people are stepping up in different ways, right? And I think that's kind of what it boils down to is just like, I'm trying to be like, well, I'm not trying to be funny. I am funny. I'm just saying, but I'm trying to be funnier on social media because there's so many people like yelling at politicians like, yo, like, Nancy Pelosi's not reading her Facebook post, buddy. Like, it's okay. Like, let's reel this in. So I'm like, well, if I, like the old adage, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say nothing at all. Right. And so I'm just trying to be funny and make people laugh. And just like that woman who turned herself into a potato. Did you guys see that?
No.
It was just, I'll have to send you the link. I talked about this yesterday, but whatever. It's so funny. They were using Microsoft Office or whatever. And over the weekend, she was like messing with filters with her friends. And then Monday came and she jumped into a meeting and she was a potato, but with like her real mouth and her real eyes. And she couldn't figure out how to turn it off. So the entire meeting is with her as a potato. And like, I just think that is so funny.
I love that so much.
I keep going back to that article and looking at it because it makes me laugh. And I'm like, like I think laughter right now is worth its weight in gold.
There's actually there's a video also of a parish or a priest of some sort who did a live stream on his video of a mass, and he accidentally turned on the filters. So there's like sparkles and like
fireworks.
Fireworks. I was like, this is probably the best mass anyone has sat through.
I know. I'm compelled to watch it now. Like, I think I could get down with that, Absolutely.
The power of filters compels you now.
The power of filters. That is hilarious. So yeah, I mean, so Mana, while you're home and you're, are you still like working? Like what does this look like for you right now?
I mean, I'm really lucky in that everything I do is on a computer. And so, I've turned my living room into my office, and it's become, I moved to my new place in September, and this is, I think, the starkest it's ever been that I probably should finish furnishing my house. Like right. A table to sit at would be really great. Right. Maybe a bookshelf. So no, I mean, it's been fine. And I think, our organization's really young. We're all millennials. And so we're kind of used to video conferencing and Slack and all of that. So there hasn't been too much of a shift in that way. But I will say just sitting at home all day can get a little bit tiresome. And I think it's restlessness that actually is the most difficult thing to navigate.
Totally. I decided last night, like, I'm gonna get my shit together and create a better morning routine, because I like talk a lot of shit and I tell other people what to do and do your morning meditations. And then I get up and I get on Facebook and I'm like, I fucking hate people. So I'm like, I am such a hypocrite, right? Like, I'm telling everybody all these great ways to start. So I was like, you know what? So this morning I got up, I made a list last night, and I got up and I put my laundry in first thing. And then I like swept my room thoroughly because there's like a ton of dog hair in there. And vacuumed it up so I could lay out my yoga mat. And so I've decided that every morning I'm going to do like a guided meditation and a little yoga routine before I leave my room. And the mat will just be there to remind me to do that, you know? And so I think part of it is like just creating like hard routines for you to follow, to give yourself some sort of a schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, for me, I think just as someone who's very structured and loves routine, and my Google Calendar is my Bible, I think that's been what's scariest as well. And I think the weekends are actually a lot harder in a way, because you wake up and you have this like blank canvas of a day, and you're like, what am I painting today? What am I supposed to do with this? But I mean, at the same time, there's like, you know, I'm noticing like smaller pleasures that I don't think, you know, because we're forced to slow down now. Despite having to use the internet more to connect, we're slowing down. And like, you know, I've starting to run outside again. I haven't run outside in 3 years. Like, I'm a treadmill person, and I'm just so grateful. Like, there's so much, the physicality, like I'm so grateful that my body can move, you know, that I can get outside and there's freedom of movement. And, you know, I think placing a lot more weight on these things has been helpful in keeping me sane.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. Yeah, I think we're going to get back to a lot of basics, you know, and I mean, we're seeing more people in parks than ever before, which is like, you know, good and bad, right? But I think just trails. Just valuing it more, right? Like, you know, people are like waving to their neighbors and having front porch parties, and you know, not that long ago, people would have been calling the cops on each other. Like, I paid $800,000 to live here. I shouldn't have to hear people in the front. Like, shut up, man. Just enjoy that you have neighbors, right? And I think that a lot of that has just been like removed. People are like, oh my God, hi neighbor, right? Like, this might be, like, quite frankly, this might be the first time people have spoken to some of their neighbors ever.
Yeah, I saw something a long time ago that was talking about how one of the most life-changing inventions in our lifetimes, or maybe in like centuries, was the garage door opener, because you didn't have to see your neighbors. Now that you could go through your house and go into your garage and get directly into your car, you didn't have to talk to anybody around you.
Wow.
And I hadn't thought about it in a while until you said that. This feeling like we don't have a garage. I mean, if we did, I probably wouldn't talk to anybody either. But I just, growing up in the suburbs of Atlanta, all of us had garages. And I couldn't tell you probably who lived next to me, because if my car was in the garage, I was backing out. And then I'm driving straight up in. I might half wave if I'm pulling into the driveway and somebody's outside. But other than that, I'm not speaking to people. And so one, not having a garage here has made a difference. But two, just how it's impacted relationships. Like, I've had more FaceTime dates. I'm on FaceTime all the time. And I am queen of, I don't have time. I would really like to do that, but I can't. Even like, I've been FaceTime co-working with a friend for an hour every morning. And sometimes we talk all the way through it. And sometimes we have very specific goals that we're trying to meet in that hour, and we don't talk, but like, there's built-in accountability because somebody can see me. And there's also that feeling like when you go to work, like I can take myself off mute and tell her that my dog is snoring beside me, and look at this, she is being foolish. I don't know why she's making all this noise. Get back on mute and do my work. And I've spent so much time working by myself that that's been a nice change too, of like forcing people inside my world.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one. I think that's a really good idea. I like that a lot. Just like a breakfast club, right? Like, just get your day started, some accountability. I was thinking about that this morning because I posted about, does anybody have any like good, gentle, restorative yoga videos that I could, like, they could direct me towards? Because I've got like spinal surgeries and all kinds of issues, so I can't just be out here doing all this stuff. I'm gonna break my neck at home. It won't be cute. And so this woman, Eve Hennessy, hit me up and was like, hey, let's do yoga. I need a reason to get out of bed. I'm like, cool, 10:30. And so like we just did a screen share through Zoom. and like watched a yoga, like Kundalini yoga video, and we just did some like 17 minutes, and even that was cool. Like, she wasn't instructing me or anything. We just like watched the same video together. And I thought, man, I should send out an email to my girlfriends and say, like, why don't we do yoga every morning at 7:30 and just do a screen share? Like, you don't even have to, you can like close your camera so nobody can see you. It's just more about like, that accountability, like a little bit of like camaraderie.
Like somebody else is doing something with you. I think that's the hard part. We already were pretty isolated before we even got to this place.
Totally.
And so now this feeling of, I signed up for masterclass because the Instagram ads got me, and they were buy one, gift one. And so you got two for the price of one. So I shared one with a friend, and she was like, do you want to start a course? And again, we're probably not going to do it together, but I'm like, yes, I'll do the same one that you're doing. And then we have something extra to talk about. And before this, I think I would have just been like, oh, I'll do it. Then I don't actually make time for it. Then I don't talk to anybody about it. So to your point, it's been a nice like camaraderie and accountability in a way that feels soft, that doesn't feel like I'm expecting you to do this thing. Because we're putting way too much pressure on ourselves about productivity in this time too.
Yeah. Everybody's sharing that tweet and like plagiarizing the hell out of it. That's like, if you don't come out of this with a new skill set or having like written a book or like invented something, like you're just an idiot. Or I'm paraphrasing, but like,
you wasted your time basically.
No, if you come out of this with 15 extra pounds, you did great. You know what I'm saying? You fucking killed it. You probably baked some amazing shit. Be proud of yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's privilege, right? Like it's privilege in motion to think that everybody has the same set of circumstances and that people aren't dealing with like burying loved ones or having their kids at home. Like everybody has their own version of something that's straining them, right? And like, just be helpful. Like, you don't have to come out of this with anything other than like maybe a slightly cleaner house. Set the bar low.
I mean, I think we forgot. Nobody has in their like toolkit how to survive a pandemic, right? Exactly. Like I've been in therapy for 17 years. We never talked about that. So this is also. I think this is totally new for everybody, and I think approaching ourselves with some compassion and gentleness is okay. Totally. It's all right.
Totally.
You can only do what you can do, right? Like if you are trying, if you're struggling with anxiety and you wake up and you spend the first 3 hours a day sitting and like crying in front of your computer, which I've not done. Totally have not done that. Little TMI. No. But I mean, is it better to disconnect for an hour and regroup and just be nice to yourself, knowing that, was not prepped for this, or do we just force ourselves through and not get anything done?
And your productivity may or may not be consistent. There are days when I am killing it, and all day I'm getting my emails done, I'm responding to people, and I got your stuff on time, and we're good. And there are days like Tuesday when I woke up and I was like, I just can't do anything. I know I owe people stuff. I know that you're waiting on me for something. I cannot look at this computer or I'm just going to be in tears. I have to go lay down. And so instead, I laid down for like 3 hours and watched 4 Weddings and a Funeral on Hulu. And then I felt better enough to like check a couple of things. But to your point, I gave myself grace for the fact that like this day is not going to look like other days. And we'll wake up Wednesday and we'll try. And Wednesday was a little better, but not all the way better. But I think we put too much pressure on ourselves to do. And I mean, I do it all the time. But it's like, why are you resting when you could be doing? And it's like, why are you doing when you could be resting?
Yeah.
Well, this is a time for us to do less and be more, right? And I think that's sort of the shift for a lot of people, is that we just got to be okay with being.
I like that. Do less and be more.
Yeah.
Do less. I'm going to make a little graphic and put it up on the screen because I think that's awesome. Do less, be more. Those are such wise words. Honestly, that is amazing, because I think if there was anything that encapsulated, you guys can't see it, but I just put it up on the screen. Do less, be more. I think that is like the best thing ever, because it's not about how much you get done. It's like, how are you showing up for people, right? Like even just like jumping on a phone call with your mom or checking in with a friend or any of that, like really matters, right? Like it's not about how much you accomplish. It's just getting out on the other side of this thing, and holding space for yourself. I really like that. And maybe reach out to some of your telework therapists, right? Like they probably need some work right now. I actually have a new client who, she's actually my therapist, full disclosure. And she is a yoga therapist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right. So I was like, okay, well, what is this? And she's awesome. She's like in her, I don't know. She's a mom. She has 3 kids, so she's like older. And so and she's got that like New York kind of vibe to her. She's a fast talker, and like that's my kind of people, right? And she's got like a master's degree in sound therapy. She's worked with like soldiers and stuff at Walter Reed. Like she's mad legit, right? She's not some 25-year-old telling me to just breathe. Like, not today, fam. So I want someone to therapize me who's been through some pain. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't know pain. You're 25. I know that's judgmental, but whatever. I'm not running for office here. I want someone who I feel like, you know what I mean, has been a mom, can relate to some of these things. Like I'm not a mom, but like I want more of a maternal kind of figure. And so what she before all this went down, she would come to my studio and do guided meditations with me, sound baths, sound healing, breathing exercises. And like for me, because my brain's always going, like I try to do those on my own, but it's harder. But when someone's in the room, like talking to you, it brings you back constantly. And that's been super helpful. So I've got her going into her like walk-in closet and recording like guided meditations as if she was with me, and then sending them to me, and then I'm cleaning them up and like making them sound really good, and then creating a video around it. We're going to build a YouTube channel and start launching them on Monday. So every day there's like a new like and the one she did today was like something you could do at your desk, like in your desk chair. And I love that. I'm like, yeah, let's, and she's not charging for these things. She's just going to put them out on YouTube. But the point is just to like help people with the skill set that she has to help them get through like whatever the rest of the day looks like for people. And I think that's really awesome. I think a lot of these side effects of all of this horrible stuff are actually really positive.
Yeah. I would say one of the silver linings that I've been bringing up a lot when I've been talking to people is I don't think I've ever seen this like general outpouring of support of people being like, I'm offering this for free, or come take this workshop, or this thing that you would usually have to pay for, I'm just going to give to you. Even like the number of things that I've said yes to recently that are just like, oh, you just need me to come tell people stuff that they might not otherwise know.
Right.
I just want to make sure that people know it. Like I've seen so much camaraderie and teamwork and partnership and just outright like introductions that I've seen happen online of, yo, she knows how to do this, holla at her real fast. And then it comes into something beautiful. So it's cool to know about things like this that I think people are taking for granted, that they have to pay for this new course or do this new thing. It's like YouTube is here. They are teaching you things all of the time. People are out here giving you access to free information. If you are going to be productive in whatever way that looks like to make yourself better or your house better or your business better, like take advantage of these free resources that are out here just trying to encourage you to keep going. Because I think that's really difficult for a lot of people now too, of like, what am I supposed to do? Maybe nothing. But if you want to do something, you can do it with help.
Yeah. Well, and it's really interesting because right now podcast numbers are down by like 10%, listening habits. Right. Which is strange. You would think they would be up, but the issue is that people's habits and patterns and routines are completely disrupted.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of people like listen to podcasts in the drive in or the drive home or on the treadmill, and now they're not doing that. But I think that just shows us that we need to get back into some routines, right? So like maybe listen to a podcast while you're in the shower now, right? Like maybe listen to it, like replace, like since you're not driving in, like, or you're not on a treadmill, maybe put it in your earbud and go for a walk and listen to a new podcast. Find ways to kind of replace some of that, because, the one thing that I learned last year, I read a grip of books last year. I read this one book that said the average human has 50,000 thoughts a day and 70% of them are negative, which is interesting because I also recently learned that the average human has 25,000 breaths a day. So that means that we're thinking twice as much as we're breathing.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Not to stress anybody out more, but like, I was like, what? That's crazy. But apparently that's a thing. So, and then more than half of the thoughts we have are thoughts that we've already had. Right. And I was like really triggered by that information, because I know it's true. Like I'll put on the same midnight reggae mixtape for the 119th time. And then that's when like your brain goes on autopilot because it's playing something familiar. So then your brain replays familiar things too. So I started to just read, like do Audible. And so I read 28 books last year. It was just like, let me just let me just fill my head with some other information so that when I'm on that like default, thought pattern, it's like, I'm thinking about what book I just read or what I learned from that book and not like, why didn't that guy call me back? Or I could have done better with my mom when whatever garbage is kicking around your head that you've already covered, Some of it is self-reflection. Some of it is important. You're like, yeah, I was kind of an asshole. That's important too. But not if it's the 17th time you've acknowledged that about yourself. It's okay. You know what I mean? Like you can back up off of that statement now and move into something a little bit more productive. Read some books, like get on Audible, right? Like, because I think even right now, just filling your head with anything but what's actually happening, it's not escapism, it's therapy.
Oh, and speaking of books, I don't know if everybody knows this, but first of all, shout out to libraries, support your libraries. Obviously you get free digital books, but a lot of libraries will also give you access to their digital versions of magazines that they subscribe to for free. So if you are a library card holder, you can usually, like if they subscribe to GQ and National Geographic and all of those, they'll generally have a separate magazine app that you can log into with your library credentials, and you can read all those for free too. So if you're an enthusiast of some kind, or you just want to read trash, whatever, if they subscribe to the magazine in hard copy and or digital, you can read it for free.
That's super cool. I did not know that. That'll make me check that out. And then what is that app that's there's an app that's attached to the libraries where it's like Audible, and so you can listen to all the like audiobooks that the public library has
I can't remember
available for free.
Yeah, Libby, you can do it.
Libby, yes.
Libby, you can read and listen to audiobooks for free.
That is it. That is definitely the one. You can also connect to more
than one library, so I don't like waiting on my books. So my sister is in Atlanta, and so I have her Atlanta library card and my DC library card. So whichever one has the book fastest, I can just check it out and read it.
And what's it called again?
Libby. Libby.
That's right. It's the hip new library word. I wonder how those brainstorming meetings went down. They're like, no, we need something shorter.
It's too many syllables.
They had a Gen Zer in the room. Okay. They were like, look, TikTok videos are 15 seconds. This needs to be a second if you say it.
Libby. Boom. That's so funny. And they were probably like, well, you know how many people spell library wrong, so let's just shorten that shit and just eliminate
Who can't say or spell it? Yeah, let's just make it fast.
I will say, we've talked about how much like content is now available to us. And, I think JSTOR, for example, made everything accessible, which is kind of insane. I think it was JSTOR. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry.
Wait, what's JSTOR? I don't even know that
this catalog of like academia. It's like papers and books, and it's stuff that you usually only have access to when you're at a university.
Nice.
So, it's so great to see all of this, but I do, I was a lit major, so I have this like soft spot for authors, but I think this is an important time to also remember to support folks in the art community. Books are coming out, folks can't do their, book tours. And so I think where possible, remember, these are folks who enrich our lives, even as we sit inside. It's not just, artists and writers, but also, the people who make your video games and all of this. And so wherever possible, I think, let's remember that we should be supporting them as well.
No,
that's so good. Real. That's a really good point for sure. I like that. My brother actually just wrote a book. He co-authored the autobiography of the Bad Religion band.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
OG.
I know, right? Super cool. So it's coming out in August. I already bought it on Amazon because I'm a good sister and shit. And it's really funny because the band is older now, and the lead singer doesn't travel with the band because he doesn't like planes or he doesn't like buses. I can't remember why, but most of the time he's not with the band. And my brother, like, ironically, kind of looks like the lead singer, and he's always traveling with the band. So, like, quite often people think my brother is the lead singer of Bad Religion. I'm like, dude, you should create a whole like podcast around like, no, I'm not him,
It's fabulous.
Because how funny is that? Like, he's getting off the bus and people are like, ah, and he's like, oh,
Not
I
me.
am not the guy you think I am, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, he's been doing a lot of writing and putting out, he's been writing for Razor Cake, which is like one of the original like punk zines. They were like one of the original zines that ever came out. And so, he just writes constantly, and he's been putting out a weekly blog about The Outsider, that show on HBO that like people are freaking out about.
I haven't seen
And
it.
it's not my jam. Like, I haven't seen the show or whatever, but I appreciate that he's staying consistent with it, and then he's putting this out because it makes me feel a little bit more normal when it shows up in the box, right? It's like, oh, like life is still moving forward, life is still going, and I think that's really important to remember. So Keila, I gotta ask, like, do you have any tips to tell people? Like, I know I am painfully behind on my taxes and stuff, and whatever, we'll get through that. It is what it is. But like, for people, do you, like, you've been getting a lot of calls, a lot of emails, in this last week or so, or more than that, I'm sure. But like, is there anything that stands out to you that like people could think about in this time, or things people could do to prepare, or that they should remember right now?
Get your shit together now. So what's happening is there are grants coming out, there are loan opportunities coming out, and if you didn't file your taxes or have financial statements, you can't apply for them. And so
None.
there's a lot of people who are coming to us who are like, hey, I need to apply for this grant. How fast can you get me financials? It's like, I haven't been working with you. So I have to learn everything that you've done. I've got to correct all the things that you did wrong. And then I have to do that in the midst of all my other clients who were just trying to catch up to March to make sure that their stuff is in order. So if I could give any advice to people, I would say right now, get a basic profit and loss statement. Get all of the revenue that you made last year, the income that you made last year. Break out all of your expenses by category. If you don't know what categories to use, Google a Schedule C by the IRS. It's super easy. It's got advertising, office supplies, like the stuff that you're used to seeing. But just get that together so that by the time an opportunity comes up, because the thing is two things. One, a lot of people are applying. They only got so much money, so everybody can't get it. And two, the windows are generally really short. So they'll open it and they'll only accept applications for, say, like 3 days a week. That's not enough time to get your stuff together and submit it. So I feel real hype about that. I feel like I got excited when I was talking about that. But just, I've seen so many people who have missed out on what would have essentially been free opportunities, but they just thought about today that their 2019 numbers weren't right, and the application closes on Friday. It's too late at that point. So do it now so that you can apply for those things. And the other thing that my mentor was telling me the other day, apply for stuff. Let them tell you no. Because a lot of people are like, I don't know if I qualify because I think I might have. If you're not sure, just send your application. They'll let you know if they're not going to give you any money. But don't take yourself out of the running and then find out later that you qualified based on some exemption that you didn't read, and now you can't get the money.
100%. Because you know what? Like, I think there's always been this really big disconnect between like the haves and the have-nots, and like the haves could be the information, right? Yep. Like, there's people who know how to get every grant and every bit of money that's out there, and then there's other people,
and it didn't even open up yet.
Right. And then there's other people that are like, I didn't even think that grant was like for me, right? Like, I didn't even know that was an opportunity for me to have that, or, and I know that I felt that way for a long time about stuff, especially with One Love Massive. Like, we were very underground, we were very grassroots, and like, we were a for-profit company. And so all the grants and arts and humanities stuff is for nonprofits, right? But like, we were supporting more local artists than those nonprofits were. Like, we were doing so much more, but like, there weren't opportunities for me because I was a for-profit company. And so for a long time, I just sort of had it in my mind that that's not for me and that those things are just not for me. Right. And then it's like, well, you know what? I'm just gonna, my whole life I've been doing things that people told me I couldn't. So why not add emergency disaster relief grants to that list of shit I did? You know what I mean? Because like you said, worst case scenario, they tell you no. Because I noticed like that SBA, or not the SBA one, but the DemPed office, the one that I was applying for, it's like 25 grand, and you just have to submit like your financials and stuff. That deadline was like Tuesday at 6 p.m. and then they pushed it to Wednesday at noon. And so I wonder, like, do you think that's because they didn't get enough applications?
No, I bet that one, it was probably a lot of people that were like, yo, I want to apply, but I'm not going to be done today. And I think that they opened it and they told you that they were going to open it. They told you what was due, and then they actually opened it, and it seemed like they added some more stuff. And so I think there were people that came back and said, hey, when I looked at this opportunity, when you first said it was coming, you said I needed 3 things, and I had those 3 things. Now you're saying I have 4 days to apply, but I need 3 more things. And that is too much of a push. So I think that that's part of it. I think the other part of it is, if I give government grace for anything, it's like, maybe they're hearing people and saying, if I actually want to help you and I actually want to do something for you, then we got to make this net wide enough to catch people who are not going to get it right this second. If we give them a few more hours, does that hurt us? But it allows 100 more people to be able to apply. Maybe that's worth it to them. I would say the last thing about that is it might have had something to do with the other opportunities that were offered at a federal level, because now they might have known other monies that they were being given or the resources that they could tap into that they didn't have access to initially. But
yeah, I'm curious to see.
Applied, so I feel like,
I know. I was like, your application number 9,750,000. I was like, fuck, but whatever, like you just got to put it in there, right? Like I can only hope that, when they're reviewing applications, they're like, oh, Molly, One Love Massive, she served the community for 20 years. And her business was booming. Let's help her out, right? Because I'm trying to keep my staff employed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm trying to keep them, with money in their pocket, even if they can't spend it, but just so they can like pay their rent or pay their bills or like get an Instacart delivery from Costco, and when they can't leave their house for 2 weeks. That's really all I care about, and I have global staff too. So I have like 2 staff members in India and 2 staff members in the Philippines.
Oh, wow.
And that's just crazy. You know what I mean? Talking to John in the Philippines, like they're locked down completely and like they're like having like rolling blackouts and like they don't have water and they don't have all the supplies they need. So I'm like, it's just a healthy reminder that like we're all right. You know what I'm saying? Like we're
we're more than okay. Is what I've been saying. Like we're real good.
They're like, there's nothing else to watch on Netflix. I'm like, shut up. You don't know pain. You don't know pain. But yeah, I think that's really helpful information for sure. Like just, apply, like let them tell you no, because you never know. Like I applied for one that's just like 10 grand, just like for being a small business.
Yeah. Yeah. And like they might define things differently than you do. So for example, the feds came out with that PPP.
Yeah, the paycheck protection.
But there's a caveat, an extra line for solo entrepreneurs and freelancers that they can also apply. And so the way that it's set up, it says like businesses that are paying payroll. And so individuals would automatically be like, oh, that doesn't apply to me because I don't pay anybody. But there's another line for people who lost money just working for themselves. I think they have a week lag before they can apply for it. But just thinking about how we're used to hearing definitions of payroll, business, oh, well, I don't have either one of those, so that's not me. Being able to say, yeah, but the way they're defining it in this way, employee may not mean what you expected it to mean. Business may not mean what we're used to hearing it mean. And so you may be eligible even when you didn't know you were. Again, I don't want to overburden the system, so we don't want everybody out here just being like, I started cutting grass yesterday, I should apply for this. But if you think that you are eligible and you think that you meet the qualifications, apply and just make sure that you're in the running, because a lot of people are going to apply, and you might be applicant 9 million, but who's to say that the other 8 million were even qualified? They might shut all of them out.
Right. It might not have been it. Yeah, for sure. And bless those poor people who have to review all those
Man, we
applications.
appreciate it. Hopefully that opens more jobs for people, though, because I'm like, that's basic data entry and a checklist. So there's a lot of people who would be able to review even the first pass and be like, hey, there's 10 things they had to meet. Did they meet
Right.
them? Cut those people out. You could pay an hourly rate for people to come in and be able to do that, to slow down the cog in the system. But, government bureaucracy, so I don't know.
Yeah, who knows, right? But that's a really good point. It'll be interesting to see this next wave of job creation based on all of this. It's going to change things for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where my business shakes out and all this. I'm trying not to give it too much thought, right? Like,
you just don't know.
People still need podcasts. People still need to communicate. People still need audio and video.
Right.
So
the universe laughs. The universe laughs when you plan too far ahead anyway, right? So here we are.
Even without this, I feel.
Even without this.
100%. 100%. Yeah. I mean, it was kind of crazy, like looking through the financials that you sent me. I was like, oh shit, I did better than I thought I did. That's amazing. Like, who knew, having your life together has some side benefits, right? Like, there's nothing but room for improvement, but it's better than I thought it was. So that's kind of reassuring. But it is what it is. Like, I have, when I was born, I was diagnosed with a rare congenital birth defect, and I wasn't supposed to live more than 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And so I had a team of doctors at Bethesda Naval, and they all said I wouldn't, I'd look like a 5-year-old by the time I was 2, but I wouldn't grow any more than that. So I was like Benjamin Button in reverse, right? So, yeah, so I grew super fast. I looked like a 5-year-old by the time I was 2, and then I didn't stop growing like they said. I just kept going, and they were like, okay, she's going to be 6'2". And then I ended up being 5'10". It's just further evidence of like, don't ever let anybody tell you what you can and cannot do, because it's not real. It's their construct. It's not yours. And so, but long story short, I've had multiple spinal surgeries. I had my first surgery at 19 in my lower back, and I was out of commission for like 9 months and couldn't leave my house and like couldn't barely even dress myself. So like, I've been through this before where I'm like, okay, I'm stuck at home. There's potentially no money coming in. Like, my whole world needs to be like recalibrated.
This seems like a much more comfortable version of that, though. If you got to have one of the two, this seems.
That's what I'm saying. I can like dress myself, yo. I can put my socks on and my own underwear on, and I don't need help from somebody. Like, that's like, if you think you got it bad, right? Like, having to ask somebody to help you put your underwear on when you're 19 years old.
Yeah.
That's, I don't really teaches you how to ask for help, you know what I mean? And not be afraid of that. And so I've had to reinvent myself several times over because, I didn't go to college. I got into the real estate finance business when I was really young. So I was actually certified to be a preschool teacher. I had 500 classroom hours, with special needs kids, which paved my way to work in the entertainment industry, honestly. So it's like, everybody sit down.
Be quiet.
Use your words. Use your words. But that's where I thought I would be. And then I had a really bad experience as a live-in nanny. I won't go into that. But I ended up getting a job in a mortgage company at First International Mortgage in Tyson's Corner. And it was me and a bunch of Persians. And that's where my love of kebab originated.
Well, you brought another Persian on the show. I just can't get away, huh?
Hey, my people, what's up? For real, people would come in and be like, like, look at me and be like, oh, what happened? It's like, it's okay. I'm allowed to work here. But yeah, man, it's I can't remember my point, but I had to reinvent myself a lot of different ways, right? You know what I mean? I've had a lot of different careers because I didn't go to college, and so like there was never an easy route for me to take, right? I had to like learn how to do something or learn a new skill set or create economy for myself. And I kind of think it brings out the best in you, aside from like the sheer panic and all the horrible shit that's going on. once we get on the other side of this, right, like, and some of that is quelled down, then we get to really shine and we get to invent this new society that we want to live in.
Yeah.
That hopefully is filled with more time with your neighbors and out at the park and being grateful for the arts.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that's where we're at. But, you know, I hit up my buddies in Detroit and I was like, how you guys doing? And they were like, you know, we've been broke before. We're cool. I was like, that's a good
That's
attitude.
a good way of thinking about it.
I mean, what do you know, right?
Well,
We've all been broke.
I mean, that's the thing, right? There are some people who I think came into this better prepared to deal. My shrink told me that the folks that she's seeing who have, you know, anxiety and panic disorders are actually handling this much better than folks who have never dealt with anxiety before.
Right.
Yeah. So, you know, silver linings all around, guys.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. You know, one of my guests the other day was talking about her autistic son and that he's on the spectrum and that he like kind of social distances already. But now because everybody's forced to do that, he's actually becoming more social. I'm like, oh, that's so, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
unexpected consequences, right? Like who would have thought like from taking it away completely, now he's more interested in exploring it some more.
It's
So
funny what you learn about yourself from that. I was just talking to somebody maybe yesterday about how I'm naturally pretty introverted. I'm good with one-on-ones and like two people. I don't like a lot of big groups, but I miss people being around even if I wasn't talking to them. So like the museum.
yeah.
Like there's just people in the same space as me. Even though I don't have to interact with them the same way. And I don't think that's something that I thought that I would miss. I don't necessarily miss talking to people, which sounds really rude, but I don't miss that part. I more so miss like being at the outlet mall and just having other people passing me in the same space. And now just me and my husband and my dog and my stepdaughter when she's here. So just getting used to, I mean, I tell him every day, jokingly but serious, like I'm glad I like him because the people that are stuck in spaces with people that they kind of didn't like before, and now I can't go anywhere else. If I gotta be stuck with somebody, I'm glad it's somebody that doesn't work my nerves on the regular.
Yeah.
Or
well,
worse.
not me. I'm stuck home alone all day, so I am annoying the shit out of myself, quite frankly. Yesterday I plugged in this new microphone and I had like the gain all the way up. So I started doing like little ASMR stuff with it. And then I just started like talking to myself and I don't even like ASMR. It doesn't work on my brain. For some people, it like causes a reaction. It doesn't work on me. But then I was like, what am I saying? And I was like, are you okay? And then I was like, I'm not okay. And then I was like, who the fuck are you talking to right now? It's like some sort of subconscious like therapy. Like if you want to know what's going on in your head, like put on some headphones and turn your microphone all the way up and just start whispering to yourself. And like whatever's coming out is like where you're at.
Zone. You got to turn the lights off to really get the full effect.
I mean, seriously, it's kind of interesting. Like, you know, I don't know. I hate all these like, oh, you're an introverted extrovert, like, or you're an extroverted introvert. Like, isn't that the same fucking thing? I don't know, man. Like, I think all that stuff is kind of like malarkey because I feel like people rely on labels and then they like limit themselves because of what they think their label is, right?
Yeah.
And I just hate labels in general in regards to everything, you know, because I want the ability to change my mind. And I don't want to be like defined by anything. And I just don't think it's anybody's business, quite frankly, like on a lot of different levels. But I am that person who will talk to anybody anywhere. Like I'm the person that like starts up a conversation at the carryout or online someplace or at the train station. Like I hug strangers on the street on a regular basis. I am that person that just like people just like that. I don't know what it is, but it's always been that way. You know, like one
You've got the neon sign that says "Ask me the time."
Yeah.
Seriously. It's really, really crazy to be honest. Like one time I was walking down the street and this like kid came up to me and like we're walking by and he was like, he stops and he goes, "Hey ma'am." And I turn around, I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Can I talk to you?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." You know what I mean? Like, "What's up?" And he's like, he just starts like unloading and he's like, "Yeah, you know, my family situation and this, and then it really hurt my feelings when my mom said this or whatever." Like, And then he like kind of cried, and I listened to him, and like we hugged it out on the street. You know what I mean? And he was like, "Thank you so much." I was like, "No problem." I'm like walking away with tears in my eyes.
The
I'm like,
world
that's
needs
like
people like you.
yeah, and like that's a normal day for me. Like I am just like long hugging strangers everywhere I go. Like everybody, you know, the people that live under those bridges, like in the encampments. Like I know a lot of those people because like I've been talking to them for years, like long before, you know, any of this stuff came up. Because like, you know, I care about people, and I really like. Because I've been on my own for so many years. I moved out at 17, and I went through so many surgeries alone, and I've, you know, like learn that like no matter how much people love you, at the end of the day, like we're all alone. And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like it's not a bad thing. Like people got shit going on too. Like you're not the only one with like cancer. You're not the like you never know. And so it's not a evaluation of how much somebody loves you or not. It's just that like everybody has their own trauma that they're dealing with. And so you have to be like okay on your own to some extent. And I know what that feels like, and it's really painful sometimes. And so I've never felt like I was any different from anybody that's under a bridge or in a castle, right? Like I don't think any of us are really all that different. And so I don't know anybody who lives in castles, for the record, but
if you do, I want to come see.
I know I should make some. I mean, my studio's in a castle, but that's not quite the same thing. I don't think they would appreciate if I moved in.
That's not what they
like,
signed you up for.
Hello, peasants. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, yeah, that connection, I'm definitely missing that connection because I love like exchanging, you know, funny conversations. And like a year ago, I was riding my bike to work, and this woman cut me off and scared the shit out of me. Like I really thought I was going to die. And I was going down K Street heading into DC, like from northeast to northwest. And the exchange happened, and then I pulled up to the light right at K Street in North Capitol, and there was a woman standing on the corner, and I pulled up in my bike, and I just like took a deep breath, and I started crying because like I was so rattled from the experience. And this woman looks over and she goes, "Boo boo." Oh, but boo boo, no. And she comes over and like held me as I like ugly cried into her shoulder. I'm sure the people in their cars were like, what the fuck is going on right now? But like, that is my life, right? Like, I just feel constantly connected to everyone around me, even if we're like not talking. And so I'm definitely starting to really feel this disconnect and just that daily exchange, you know, even with the lady at 7-Eleven or like whatever. So I appreciate you too coming on the show and sharing some of that connection with me today. It definitely helps in the grand scheme of things, you know.
No problem. This was cool.
Yeah.
This is I feel like re-energized.
Mm-hmm.
This is such a good feeling. I like, look, you're saying these things about connections and maybe you don't feel a connection now, but I want you to know that like every single time you do give someone a hug on the street, I guarantee you down the line, they will replicate.
Yeah.
I mean, I just keep flashing back to when I was an undergrad. I was like at Safeway and I'm super poor, you know, 18-year-old, right? And like my card got declined and this lady behind me paid for my groceries. And so like, I can now, because of that, I cannot count how many times I have just been like, I will pay for your groceries. Like it continues even if you don't feel it. So I just want you to know that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's nice. Yeah. I can't wait to get out there and pay it forward some more, right? Like, I'm just going to hug the shit out of everybody awkwardly for very long periods of time. But like, just come here. Just come on. I keep joking about they need like hug lines at the hospital for when people come out and they're like somewhat immune to the virus, you know, like they should just like hug people. Like, just come here. Just like 100-person hug line at the exit of every hospital, right? Like, I think we are all going to need it at some point for sure. Well, ladies, so one thing before we log off, I want to ask you guys if you have like one tip for people to improve their morning routine or something they can do at home that's not getting on social media and arguing with strangers, right? Like, is there anything in your life that's been helping you to stay focused, or not fuck being focused, stay positive, stay present, and stay okay? Like, do you have any tips you guys would like to share with people?
I'll go first, I guess.
Yeah.
I think the long and short is really like find structure and routine. and know it's going to be different than whatever your normal life was before this, right? So I'm an Orange Theory addict. I would wake up at 7 every morning and go to Orange Theory, and I'm like, well, I don't have that anymore. So now I wake up, I go on a run, and I have a half-hour coffee FaceTime with one of my colleagues, just to sort of ease into the day.
I like that.
And, I think wrapping up your day in a consistent way also sets you up for success in the morning. So, I think we talked a little bit about sort of like funneling garbage out of our brains and replacing it with thoughts. But I've noticed for me, what's really important is to actually be able to lean into how I'm feeling sometimes, and making sure that I'm reading before bed things that resonate with me, not, the New York Times on my phone, but I'm reading a gorgeous book right now. I promise I'll stop talking in a second, but I'm reading a gorgeous book right now called The Rumi Prescription, by Melody Mouezi, who's an amazing Iranian American author. And she basically takes sort of the biggest human struggles that we face, isolation, desire, love, all of this. And she's sort of prescribes a Rumi poem that really kind of walks you through this human experience and gives you anecdotes. And so, it's chunked up beautifully. And so I just make sure, I'm not even reading it in chronological order. However I'm feeling that night, I go and I find the feeling and I'll read it and I'll lean into it. And so, I go to bed feeling genuine and authentic in how I process the day. And I think that has been really, really helpful. Definitely get that book, though.
That's awesome. Yeah, you'll have to send me a link to it.
For sure.
And I'll put it in the description so people can access it. That's an awesome one for sure. Yay. How about you, Keila?
I would say I am also really big on routine and like planning and all of those things. But when I find that hard, when it's not as easy for me to like create routines for myself, especially for the mornings, I think having a list of things that you can choose from was helpful for me. So like if I don't have anything to do, I'll wake up and I'm like, you're not doing anything anyway, just get on Instagram. But it was helpful to be like, okay, you could read, or you could run, or you could walk the dog, or you could go downstairs and listen to a podcast. And whether that's written or just in your head, just having choices, because I think when you first wake up, it gets hard to create those choices for yourself. And then you're like, well, then I'm just going to lay here and we'll see what happens. So kind of a mix between having a routine that you're used to, but also having something to be able to pick from to say, if I don't want to get on social media, or I don't want to just waste my morning, what are some things that I can pick from? And then to your point, doing what you feel. There may be a morning where it's like, I can lay here and read this book. And there may be other days where it's like, I have to get outside, and I have a couple of things on the list that would support that too.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's really great. I think that's really, that's solid advice. I was thinking about something that my yoga therapist, Sarah Shane, taught me recently, and it's really, really helpful. I've shared it with a few people, but doing gratitude meditations, but specifically doing one where you take 20 deep breaths, and when you want to think about 20 different people that you're grateful for. So like on the inhale, think about that person and all the things that you're grateful for them. And then on the exhale, send that gratitude to them, right? Like, and kind of visualize that. And that just made it easier for me to like not let my mind wander, because I was like really thinking about a different person each time, and then like thinking about sending them that energy. And that just really helped me stay focused and do like a really nice long gratitude meditation that just really helps. Because, whenever you take that moment to like acknowledge the people you're grateful for, like it sparks all these ideas, and then you're finish your meditation and you call that person. Like it all, like nothing bad ever comes from being grateful. So that I found that to be really helpful, especially right now. Like if you had a hard time meditating before, like good luck with that shit now, because good Lord, my brain is like a battleground of misinformation. You know what I mean? Mostly coming from myself. So right on. Those are really helpful tips. I like both of those a lot for sure. Somebody else mentioned last week especially the coffee time thing, Mana. I love that. And I think somebody mentioned taking your calendar and writing a different person's name on every day for the month, and then calling that person that day. And it's like gives you something to look forward to, and you can kind of think about what you want to talk with them about. And then you're not like just catching yourself off guard, right? You have a plan for it. And I really like that one. I thought that was super cool for sure.
I like that.
Awesome. Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining. I will definitely update the link with all the information. I appreciate you taking some time to like help me create some positivity in the world. I think it matters, right, more than ever. Yeah, so I'm gonna, sign us out here. Thank you to whoever's watching. I don't know how many or how few, but it doesn't matter. We appreciate you showing up with us every day and all your comments and stuff. Hopefully this has provided a little bit of sunshine in a gloomy environment where there are still lots of things to be grateful and happy about, and there's so much love that exists in the world. And so don't let everything you see on Facebook frame how you see the world, because there's actually a lot of really beautiful stuff going on outside of social media. And like we said, be easy, be easy on yourself. Like, you don't have to write a book during this downtime. You don't have to do it. You don't have to learn how to be a homeschool teacher. Listen, I don't know about you guys, but I learned shit in high school anyway. So like, if your kids miss a couple months, they'll be all right. Give them a book to read or something. Like, I promise you. And I know lots of kids learned more than I did in high school, but that's not the point. You don't have to be perfect. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Just do the best you can, show up and create some space for yourself, because your kids are watching you and how you handle this. So just be easy, right? Be easy on yourself. Show yourself some love. Find some time to laugh. Turn yourself into a potato. Do whatever it is you got to do. Yeah, exactly. I wish I could turn myself into a potato for one of these shows for real. But love y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we will catch you